I think we're taking this show nationally.
It is it possible that we're international?
I guess it's feasible that people are listening to this outside of the United States of America.
You think you'd rather be a national podcast or an international podcast?
I don't think I'm ready for international.
Not ready. All right, let's, can we localize this a little bit?
One thing at
All
a
right.
time.
If you're in a different country other than the United States, please turn this off. Kindly.
Only because it's
we're not ready. We're just not
intimidating.
ready. Right. We're just not ready
No,
for that kind of level of.
I mean, because seriously, the Polish are extraordinarily judgmental of podcasts.
Yes, I have heard that.
Yeah. That's the thing about the Poles. So we're here again for episode 3 of the Morning Huddle Well-Built series. Chad Prinky alongside Matt Verderamo. Matt, it is awesome to be with you today.
It is awesome to be with you as well, Chad. We've gotten to spend a lot of time together today. It's been good.
It has been good. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were hanging out, doing work stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a productive day.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
And then but it's also been a long one.
Yes. That's how it goes too.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually when you really do something with your day, you get to the end of it and you're a little like, all right, I'm tired. Let's do a podcast.
Yeah, totally. And as anybody who's watching will see, we're in my house today instead of Chad's house. So that's a little bit of a wrinkle we've got going on here in week 3.
It's a wrinkle.
Yeah.
It's a plot twist. But I did bring the microphones.
Yes.
And we found a neat place to set them up. And there are so many good books here.
I've read like 10% of them.
Yeah, but these aren't yours.
Yeah, that's true.
This is your wife's bookcase.
That's true. There's a little bit of both in there. But
Yeah, a little bit.
I've read the Calvin and Hobbes that are down there.
So today we're gonna talk about a couple of different subjects. We've got our topic for the session. We're gonna really dig into building an executive team. Why should you build an executive team? How do you build an executive team? And then our debate, our XVY segment today is going to be talking about work from home versus hybrid work and doing that in the construction industry. What do we see on that front? But before we get into that, how are you doing?
I am doing good. I think I told you this earlier. Low energy day.
Yeah.
Had a great weekend this weekend, saw some friends, went up to New York, and today just, felt brain was there, which was good, but a low energy day, which sometimes happens, and it's a Monday. So when we're recording this, but I'm doing really good. It's been good.
Good.
How about you?
I'm well. I have had a really productive day and even weekend leading into today, and just feeling like I've been knocking a lot of stuff off the list, having the important conversations I've been wanting to have, creating some important conversations that I was hoping to create. So yeah, it's been cool. The book is coming out.
Yeah, talk about that.
So Well-Built is the name of the book, which is also the name of our company. But the book is, it's called Well-Built, and it's how the top 2% of construction contractors create superior value, profits, and excellence. And it's really a story about the companies that I've been extraordinarily fortunate to spend time with over my 16 or so years in consulting the construction industry, and what I have surfaced as really the things that make the 1 in 50 tick, and what they are doing consistently that other people aren't doing that make them make double and triple average profits in their sectors. So there's a lot in there. It's wide. I hope it's sufficiently deep. And it's the first book I've ever written, and it's all very scary. And our reviews are coming back, right, from like these professional editors. They're getting sent out to these review companies that do professional book reviews and decide whether you live or die, type of thing.
Totally.
And they're like, it decidedly doesn't suck.
Let's go.
It's such a good feeling. It is such a good feeling to see what one of them made us their editor's choice for the book launch. So
fantastic.
Yeah, we're feeling, the early returns are really great. The feedback from the people that I've had read the book or sections of the book, just kind of along this journey. It's been almost 3 years.
Yes.
Of not continuous writing, but almost 3 years from the time I had the concept to writing to really organizing that writing.
Yes.
and then bringing it to publishing. It's a lot. It was a lot of freaking work. And as we track time. It was a staggering amount of time.
Really? Do you know the number?
So I know the number since 2022 was over 400 hours.
Oh my gosh.
On the book since 22.
So let me ask you this question. Why'd you write the book?
I wrote the book for a lot of reasons. There's an emotional reason, which I really think was to give structure and language to what I have been doing in a more intuitive, more case by case kind of engagement with every client. Because with every client, I'm taking all the good stuff I know and I'm teaching them, right? In one way or another, taking all the good stuff I know and teaching them. Well, how did I get all that good stuff? Certainly, there's lots and lots and lots of good stuff that I got out of books. Great books, ranging from sales books to management books to leadership books to actually just historical books. As we've talked about that before, I get a ton about just history.
Yes.
And, how things have gone down and stuff like. But let's be honest, there's another portion of this where it's from working with 200 plus contractors and seeing the do's and don'ts firsthand from all these commercial construction companies, general contractors and trade contractors that are either making or missing their goals. And so that's been the most instrumental aspect of my education, is working with the clients themselves. And so I think there was this very emotional reason, this nag that was like, dude, you have got to get this out of your head and you have got to get this organized. And now it goes, and it was just like, because God damn it, it's stuck in there. And we are allowed to swear on this show.
That's one of the 2 rules that we've come up with so far.
Yeah.
We're allowed to swear.
We're allowed to swear.
For those keeping track at home.
We don't a lot.
Yeah.
But we're allowed.
We're allowed to. And the show will be about an hour. It's
roughly.
That's it. That's all we got so far. So if you're just joining us today, you haven't missed much. Still go back and listen to the first 2.
From a rules standpoint.
Yeah, from a rules standpoint. Yeah, you missed a lot of other good stuff, right? From a rules standpoint. All right. So there's this nagging.
So then there's these that leads into the more rational reasons, which is I knew I wanted to build a scalable, amazing group of people made up of folks like you who are passionate about making change in the construction industry. They bring their own experience and knowledge to the table, and they have all these specialized, capabilities, but that I needed to be able to teach those people and give them a framework for delivering amazing results for clients consistently, which I have been able to do. I hope that doesn't sound too cocky, but like I have been able to help clients. I mean, I didn't do anything
totally
aside from help, but I have been able to help clients get some incredible results. And the I want to build a team of people who are capable of doing the same thing. So I needed to get that out. So that's probably pragmatic reason number 1.
Yep.
Pragmatic reason number 2 is, I feel like there is a divide in there's a lot of people who call themselves consultants. It's not hard to do. Lose your job, call yourself a consultant. See how that goes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who do that. And I'm not saying that they're not good at consulting. Some of them are quite good. Some of them, however, are quite not. And there's a difference between really knowing a lot and being a good consultant. And it is, I believe, having set forth a body of work like a book, that delves into what Well Built delves into, puts you in the estimation of the consumer audience clearly into a class of professional that some people aren't. And by the way, I'm sure there are people who have not written books who could consult circles around me.
Yeah.
But again, we talk about pragmatic reasons. I want to be able to raise my hand and sort of say like, hey, I'm not part-time here.
Yeah. Right.
If that makes sense.
I'm not a solo operator.
Yeah.
I've got this system. We want to bring it to you. We're all trained on it.
That's right.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. And you read the book over a year ago, and I was like, read it again. You're like, has it changed? I'm like, shut up and read it again.
I cannot wait to get my first physical copy.
Yeah,
I
man.
cannot wait to get my physical copy.
They're coming. They're coming. So June 18th is the book launch proper, which should be right around the time that this is being released to the audience. Get on Amazon, get the book, write an honest review.
Yeah.
And I hope that it's a good one. But write an honest review. I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. Very exciting.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Of
Sorry,
course.
we were like just checking in, and I was like, book.
Yeah. Well, that's check-in worthy.
It is.
Yeah.
It's on my mind a lot right now.
Yeah.
The amount of hours I'm spending a week on book stuff is still, it's substantial.
Yeah.
But
wow.
but the wheels are in motion. Like, I'm not writing anything anymore.
Yeah.
Yet. I'm not. Yeah. I'm just. Yeah, it's happening. I will be writing more books.
There will be more.
Yeah, that's definitely because I really I feel really I feel like I can do a lot better job on the next one in terms of, I don't know about end product, but in terms of the experience. Like, that took 3 years. I think the next one will take like 8 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you used up you learned a lot of lessons on this one.
I did.
And you got so much more still left to say and write and all that. There's so many things
I
we
can
can
go so
tackle.
much deeper in every one of the chapters that's in the book.
There's
But
so
I was trying to
much.
keep the book under 400. I think it's 326 pages or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was, I used a lot of restraint to not go deeper in
Yeah.
that book, just because it gets to a point where it's like, all right, dude, it's not a dictionary.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Right? So anyway, again, looking forward to the proper feedback from the, because I know you liked it.
Yes, I did like it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to like it. No, I didn't have to. It's good. It's good.
Good. Thank you.
Of
Cool.
course.
All right. You want to talk about executive teams?
I would love to.
Matt, why do we build executive teams? Let's start there. Why? So I'm a solo operator, not solo operator. Let's pretend I'm the owner of a construction company. We'll pretend like it's steel. All right, I'm a steel company right now.
Okay.
I'm the owner. I started this bad boy. I know my stuff. I'm technically sound. I've got great relationships in the market. I know how to estimate. I'm managing work and I'm making money. And I have a bunch of people who do a good job. Should I have an executive team? And why might I want an executive team? That's maybe the better question, right? Because the answer to should you have one is very, very individualized. But if I were to want one, what would be some of the reasons that I would want to build an executive team?
Yeah, and it's so interesting. There's so many more qualifiers that I'd love to hear. You've got people that you like. You've got experience. Are you a great salesperson? And maybe you are. Are you also great at actually estimating? And maybe you are. And are you also great at project managing? Maybe you are. And are you great at overseeing the books and chasing monies? Maybe you are. Right. And if you are, if you're all of those things, you're a unicorn. Right. You're probably so many of those stinking things.
Right.
And maybe realistically that you're not some of the other ones, and you've just said, that's not something we do or worry about. We just get by with what we can. And so the reason why one reason why you want an executive team is because you can't be an expert at every single function in your business. That's the first one. The second one that comes to mind immediately is, okay, so you're doing all of those things. How much are you working every week?
Right.
What kind of time investment are you putting into your business?
Yeah.
Right. And I'll do two more so I don't take all of them from you,
Yeah,
but the two that came off the top of my head. The third is can anybody else in your business make a decision without you being there? So when you're not there, can you go on vacation? Does anybody have authority to do anything else? Is anybody else driving your business forward so that you don't have to think about every single area? And then the last one, and I think those are all the things that as soon as you start talking about this, person, this very common person that we find in the construction industry, this owner that is doing so much and working so hard and doing such a great job, but doesn't have this team around them. Those are the first things that just lifestyle wise popped to my head, is just how difficult it is to maintain all of those things. But probably the most important reason that comes to mind for me is the long-term health, the scalability, and the exit for your business.
Right.
Because nobody wants to buy a business that is reliant on a single person to do everything.
Yeah, that is 100% true. And if you're trying to build value in your business, that means you need to get the ball away from you.
Totally. And just why wouldn't somebody want to buy a business that's reliant on this solo operator?
Because I'm not buying a business, I'm buying a person.
Totally.
And that's just, it's just an employee, right? Kind of thing. Now there's a case to be made for that, but like those, I'll still buy that company. I'm just going to pay very little for it.
Oh, what a good point.
And you know what I mean? I'm going to be like, well, you don't have a company, you have you and some people that you've surrounded yourself with. But let's be honest, they just do what you tell them.
Right.
And so if you haven't built, competency out across your team, it is you and it's dependent on you. And you know what? It's sitting there making $1 million a year. I'll give you a couple $1 million for it. Sounds good. Right. But if that's not your definition of a great exit, then you should be thinking about what we're talking about, right? Amongst many other value creating items. There are lots of other things that you should be doing to build value in your business beyond creating an executive team. I'm going to give you 2 other reasons why you should want to build an executive team.
Cool. Go.
One is you want to keep great people. Great people, high potential people who are worth building around. People like you, Matt, who join a company and who are worth building around. They don't stay without progress in their career. And the really, really smart ones, like the ones that could leave and start their own business, will, if you don't create some space for them to live out their potential inside your arena. And so I watch. I think I may have told this story before. The short, but the long and short of it, and I get into it in the book in more detail. And it's actually kind of sad. Unfortunately, it has a tough ending, which I won't bum the audience out with now, other than to just say I remember I was having a conversation years ago with a guy who was like, oh man, everything's good, business is crushing it, all that kind of stuff. And I said, great, what's the next plan? And he goes, we're going to stay exactly where we are. I said, oh dude, you're screwed. I was like, and he was like, oh, come on, man. It was like the worst breakfast of his year. He was like, no, don't. I'm like so happy right now. He wasn't a client. He was just a friend. And I was like, look, and he ended up becoming a client because guess what? 3 years later, the world changed and his 3 key people that he was like building around, they left because there was no more opportunity, because he had ended the cycle of prosperity and said, you're going to have the job that you have today for the rest of your life. It's going to be great because I don't want more as the owner. You can't have more.
Right.
Which is a thing that you say to people high potential people, if you want them to leave.
Wow.
There's a percentage of the population that's like, cool, I love that. That sounds great. I'll stay exactly where I am. I think it's a smaller percentage of the population than you think. I think there's people in general like to at least know that there's potential. So that's one. Keeping awesome people is a reason to build an executive team.
Yeah, it's great.
Right? To create opportunity. And then my last reason is that you here, let me put it this way. It goes to the work-life balance thing that you were talking about before, but I'm making an observation as I thought about this topic and preparing for the show. I thought, You know, one of one of the things that I notice is when somebody tells me that they are unhappy with their work life balance. An owner comes to me and says like, "Hey, I need," because but this is one of the chief reasons that we get brought in is to help to sort this out. So I hear it all. We've heard it a lot. We've heard this a lot from our clients when they first start with us, right? It's the reason they start talking to us. And they talk about, I'm grinding it out. I'm working too damn hard. I need to get some balance. And here's the observation. By the time they're having that realization, they're already unhappy.
Mm.
And when you're unhappy with your business, number one, you're not as good as you could be. Number two, it can start to become something of a resentment. And you have this work versus home dynamic that maybe you didn't consider before you had those kids, or maybe you didn't consider before you know, had the third kid, or maybe you didn't consider before you wanted to coach sports,
Right.
or maybe you didn't consider or
Right.
whatever else. But that all of a sudden pops up, and now your work is keeping you from being the whole person you want to be. And what I would have to say to at least 80%, I could argue 98%, but I don't know. I do think people are wired different, and some people are very comfortable with like, you know, dude, I work 80 hours. It's fun. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And my kids, they know who I am. Like, and
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yep.
Everything's cool. And I'm really not judging that.
No, no.
But I think the
Great
large majority of people
Mhm.
they have goals in their personal lives that require some hours, that require some time.
Right.
And even if you're that super highly driven entrepreneur that's grinding it out today, that's loving grinding it out, and that 60 hours feels like nothing, I'm going to tell you that someday, if you're like almost everybody I've ever freaking met,
Right.
you're going to want some of those hours back.
Right.
And so the last reason for wanting to, you know, for why one should build an executive team that I have on my mind is that you, even if you don't feel like you need it today, you're going to want options.
Yeah.
You're going to want balance.
Yeah.
You're going to want to have that ability into the future. So for all those reasons, we should build an executive team. But what the hell is an executive team? What does that even mean?
What a great starting place. And so I imagine you've built a lot of different executive teams in the last 16 years too. So the makeup of an executive team can vary, right?
Mm-hmm.
There can be some different positions, there can be some different people. How would you ultimately then boil it down to what an executive team is?
That was an awesome way of making me answer the question. I'm super impressed. You were like, look, man, I interview you. You do not interview me.
I thought you were just, transitioning
Sure.
us.
Yeah,
You were
sure.
segueing us.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt. I'll bail you out this time.
Yeah.
No. So the an executive team, if you break your company down into its functions, into each of the company's core functions, right at the heart of it, at the center of your company's functions needs to be get work, run work. As a contractor, that's life. Get work, run work. And then as you grow and you get more complex, right? You know, all that type of stuff. There's different things that like get into make sure that you are staffed to run work. Make sure that well, this is kind of a foundational one too. Make sure that the company is financially viable, right? You know, take care of the company's finances. Get work, run work, make sure the company's financially viable. Those are your three core. Then you start to build around that. Make sure that we have all the right people to run the work and to get the work. Make sure that we have the technology and tools so that we can be most efficient running the work. Then you can take a look even in run work and break that down into separate functions. And you can say, there's the production in the field side, there's the operations in the office side, there's sometimes a fabrication in the warehouse side, right? Or in the manufacturing facility side. You do the same thing with Get Work. There's a business development side, an estimating side, a pre-con side, and so on and so on. And people in different organizations break that down into more and more and more buckets. At its core, your executive team is the team you entrust to handle your core functions, the highest level core functions. Get work, run work, make sure your company's financially viable. That's what an executive team is. I'm a proponent of expanding the executive team to incorporate more people as you incorporate more of those pieces of the puzzle. But if you're wondering where to start, it's really just basically these are the people who I entrust to run my company.
Yeah. They're the people ultimately responsible for the results in whatever the unit of management they are overseeing that is critical to your business surviving.
That's right.
Right.
And then the thing that makes them executives as opposed to just management team. And because those things are different.
That's you stole.
Sorry, you tell us.
No. You stole my next question, which was so now why would I? What's the, maybe talk about the difference between a management team and executive team, but also why, if I don't have one, why would I just jump to an executive team? Why wouldn't I start a management team first?
If you don't have a management team, you need to start with the management team first. I would not go around anointing people as executives if you do not have proven managers. Management is requisite. It's prerequisite. You got to have that before it's par for the course. And so we everything that we were talking about in terms of the whys, there's lots of whys in there for just why I have a management team. And there might be a lot of people who are listening to this are like, I got all those people. Okay, cool. You have a management team. But the difference between a management team and an executive team is your executive team has two things that management teams do not. One is they actually have decision-making authority, right? They have decision-making authority for things that impact the company. Number two is they have the ability to think and work strategically. Right? They have the ability to think and work strategically. They have this. They can look at a problem that impacts the business. They can size that problem up. They can run it through a filter and start processing potential solutions to that problem. They come to the table with strategic ideas for solving that problem. And as executives, they are empowered to run those things down. Now, that doesn't mean that they do all that completely autonomously. That doesn't mean that they don't run that through some sort of committee structure or some group that gets together like an executive team to talk about these things and bounce ideas off each other.
They're not operating in a silo just because they're the vice president of operations.
Right.
They don't get to blindly make the decisions that they want to. Right.
Totally. Yeah. So no VP ops out there listening to this should be playing this back to the owner and being like, see, I told you I should just make whatever decisions I want to make.
Autonomy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got it. That's not it.
But part of being an executive, actually, funny enough, is recognizing the difference between those two things. Where, like, when you need to go to the team and ask for advice and buy-in, versus saying this is totally an operations function, and this is our decision. We got it, guys. We can do this.
I oftentimes, when I'm dealing with management level rather than executive level people, one of the telltales is that they will come to you with a problem and say, I don't know why we don't just X. And that proposed solution is just got so many problems to it. And you can tell they don't see those problems.
Right.
What's X going to cost? What's the ROI on right? What's the return on that investment over time?
What other initiatives are we taking on right now that might prevent us from executing on that?
Correct. What's the what's the staff behind that strategy?
What's the emotional fallout going to be from making that decision?
You got it. All these things. You're thinking inside a vacuum, and executives don't. Executives can see big picture. They're looking at things which means they do have to understand business finance. They have to understand specifically construction math.
Right.
Right. They have to. They really have to have a good, clear sense. They have to have strong business acumen.
Yes.
Because without that strong business acumen, you can't be expected to really understand a big picture. So and I'm not criticizing. There are awesome managers that I would follow, right? That I'm like, man, that's an awesome manager. I'd fall right in line behind that manager, who just haven't been taught the things that they would need to know to be an executive. That's not on them, that they're, because they're not executive ready doesn't mean they're not executive, capable, if that makes sense.
It does. And I would actually go further to say that we often find that a lot of executives, not even managers, but people that are actually already in these executive roles, are not up to snuff on coaching and development, retaining employees,
Business
hiring,
acumen.
business acumen. Yeah, make it simple.
Well, no, but I mean that too. Some of the other stuff that you listed, yes, and like the numbers,
and they're just never taught.
Correct.
They're just never taught.
Correct. And what typically happens is people are given executive titles and, to a degree, authority, mostly based on the amount of trust the owner has in that person.
Right.
Which, by the way, is a non-negotiable barometer. It's kind of like I said about a prerequisite is you have to be a strong manager if you're going to be an executive. The same thing is true, that you have to be extraordinarily trustworthy to, in the eyes of ownership, to be an executive. Otherwise, how in the world can that owner expect to hand over key decisions,
right,
on a day-to-day basis to somebody who they don't fully trust? But when that's the only criteria, you end up with these really hardworking, really well-meaning people who generally do the right thing, but who also are, missing some core competencies.
Right.
And
Totally.
and so that's really common and very, very fixable.
Yes.
Very,
totally.
very fixable.
Yeah.
It's
totally.
way harder to fix I don't trust this person on my executive team.
Yeah. What a great point. What a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a cultural aspect there too. So that's all great. So then, okay, so we've talked about why, and we've talked a little bit about what it looks like to have an executive team. How do you go about setting your executive team up if you don't have
one? I think here's the advice that I usually give owners who are just starting out with figuring out their executive team. Which are the core functions of your business? Get work, win work, blah, blah, blah. Which are the core functions of your business that you're weakest at or least interested in? These are probably the places where you need executive level people sooner than later. It's okay if let's say I'm a 30 employee subcontractor, right? That steel company, that's that 30 employee steel contractor, that I'm like I said, I'm doing all these things and I'm good at them, darn it. And you know what? Like you said, maybe you're awesome at all of them and you're a unicorn, probably good enough at them.
Right.
But if we started to dig through that, we would identify they're actually really, really good at estimating.
Right.
They're superior at estimating. They're good at project management. They're actually serviceable at business development and relationship management.
Right.
They're terrible at finance.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
right.
like they're making money because they just doesn't spend money.
Right.
Or whatever else. Right.
Right. And over the last 5 years, you probably had a $12 million year, an $18 million year, a $13 million year, a $13 million year, a $19 million year. Right. It's just it's banging around like a ping pong ball.
Yeah. And that's also a good spot that it may like when you're plateauing. It's a great identifier that something needs to change, whether it's an executive team or what. Something needs to change. Mm-hmm. Just a side note, for those of our audience who are like plateauing.
Yeah.
Plateauing is just, when you start stringing together 3 to 5 years of very, very similar numbers, even if you're up and down, very, very similar numbers. That's you're hitting some sort of bottleneck, and it's worth checking that out, with the exception of very acute economic situations that cause you to play, which is why I say 3 to 5 years. It's got to be kind of a trend.
Yeah.
Anyway, as you evaluate building your executive team, where do I start? I really recommend, like, get your yin to your yang, man. Like, get the person that brings the things that you don't have to the table raised up first. You can continue to be the executive over estimating, and you can continue to be the executive over project management. But and that, which would mean that you're on top of those teams. That doesn't mean, by the way, that you don't have a manager under you inside those teams. My God, I hope you do have a boss over top of those individuals. That's even better, but they're not executive caliber yet, right? You have managers in those seats.
Right.
But over here, in finance, yeah, I need a controller, and I need to make that person. I need to invite that person into the inner circle and not have that person just be, on the outside doing the math. And I probably need to get somebody who can head up strategic growth, business development, or I'm hesitant, by the way, to recommend business developer hires, which I think we can do that on a future episode.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
But I'm giving you an example.
Yeah.
Don't hire business developers until you talk to me.
Yes. And that's actually really good advice. And I'm not being paid to say that.
No, that was pro bono.
Yeah, that was pro bono. Yeah.
But I think that's a starting point, right? As you're figuring it out, you don't have to name 6 executives at once.
Right.
It can be you and this person to start. We're going to be the 2 executives in the company because I've got somebody here who I truly trust. And if you look at WellBuild, actually, that's exactly what I've done. I'm like, I'm serviceable in some areas. I'm really good in some areas, and I'm not really serviceable, frankly, in some other areas. And our first executive is somebody who is really over top of business operations, which is just nuts. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's cool. The outcome is neat, but I don't like doing it like I like doing this, and like I like giving speeches and solving complex business problems and things like that.
Yeah.
Or training and developing people, or like our internal staff.
Yeah.
So at any rate, you it can be just you and another person, and then you add the third piece of the puzzle, and as you add executives, you're taking off executive hats, because every part of your business needs an executive over it.
So that's one of the really interesting things about this whole process. One of the best things you could do is create an org chart for the ideal version of what this will look like for your business, who the people in those executive roles will be. Because one of the interesting things that will happen as you do that is you will start realizing that you are the one that is working in all of these different jobs. And all of a sudden you'll start seeing that you're doing 6 jobs. And then you find that one person, great, now you're doing 5 jobs, right? And now you get the next person, now you've got 4. And there will be this really great motivation for you. And it'll just start to give you so much clarity about what you do really well and what needs to be covered, because you'll actually start looking at it as these positions in the org chart that your name is currently filling.
I love that. Yeah, it's the difference between a hierarchy org chart and a functional org chart. A lot of people, as they sit here today and they're like, let's take a look at our org chart. It's a very natural thing. They don't have any positions without names in them, and that nobody has their name in the same box, in another box. Their name's just in one box. I'm Chad. So for example, at WellBuilt, we're 8 people now, right?
Yes.
Chad Prinky, founder, CEO. I could just have an org chart that's like, I'm founder and CEO, but that would be total bullshit, because I'm not just founder and CEO. I'm also a vice president of a group, and I'm also still a group director, because we're small and we've got a lot of growing ahead of us. And so if you looked at our org chart, you'd find my name here, 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 and here. That's drawing a functional org chart. So a functional org chart is really drawing out all the functions in your business and putting your name in all the different boxes that you're actually playing. That's a humbling experience. As you look at that, you're like, I have 19 jobs.
Yes. Right.
And your goal is to circle which jobs you're getting rid of next. Now, you can do that through a management team, but at the top of your org chart, you need to be doing it also through an executive team. That's what I'm trying to say, right? Is that you can have a director of project management, and that director of project management could be a manager or an executive. And there and the difference is going to be what we talked about before.
Yeah.
Right.
That's great. That's great.
And taking off executive hats gives you that ability to, again, rise another layer above and another layer above. And I'm focusing so much on the owner's perspective, focus on the employee's perspective. It gives them the opportunity to step up
Totally.
and participate in conversations that they weren't in, and participate in new comp structures that they weren't playing in, and help to drive your business to new places. And I got to tell you, almost without exception, building out an executive team is rocket fuel for your business.
Wow.
In construction, that scares people. Bonding capacity, getting bigger, more money, more problems, like that kind of stuff. And so it isn't for everyone. I will tell you, however, that it's the type of growth that you're not afraid of. It's the type of growth that, because you're surrounded with so many competent people,
right,
and your confidence is through the roof with your team's ability to execute the work that they're given, that when opportunity comes through the door, you're really set up to say yes. And that is that's the kind of growth that, if you don't want, again, call me, I'll buy your company.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I'll get people together and we will buy your company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because if it's all set up and ready for growth and you just don't want it, we'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, so good. Well, man, any other thoughts on building the executive team that you haven't gotten out of your brain yet?
You got to be a leadership development machine.
Mm.
You have to be a culture replicator. Otherwise, you don't get to have this executive team we're talking about. Like, it's you just end up promoting people who on paper are qualified but who aren't good culture fits.
Mm.
Generally, don't hire outside for adding people to your executive team. That's a really sketchy culture play. Sometimes absolutely necessary, and I'm not knocking it like as a last resort. But it's really dangerous to bring somebody in from the outside, particularly of a mature business. You're sending a message to people that, like, getting to the top isn't for you. It's subtle, but the message is, there's not growth here for you. So again, it's something that I've been a part of and been successful, but it's always something that we labor over. Like, try really hard not to do that.
Yeah.
And when you do, you really have to make sure that it's a culture fit. You got to make sure it's somebody that, I would involve your management team in the interview process. Like, you got to be really, really careful.
That there has to be, a lot of buy-in, a lot of grace from that person, a lot of patience from that person.
We know one right now who's doing a wonderful job of it.
Yes,
and,
we do.
And it was done the right way. At every step of the way, it was done the right way. This person was brought in, and he's succeeding, and the culture is thriving, and he's driving the culture. Everything's great.
Yes.
There's just 1,000 ways why that could go wrong. Again, if you're about to do that, please call us.
Yeah.
It's just, there are a lot of steps. There are a lot of steps that you should take beforehand.
Totally. Last thoughts from me before we move on. If you're sitting there wondering or thinking, I've got these people, they're basically serving those functions, why do I need to go turn them into a management team or an executive team specifically? it changes the way they view their role in your business. And when you anoint them to that position and put them together in a group of executives working on the business instead of in the business, it actually becomes one of their responsibilities. And so you don't just create one, and you don't just have the people that are in place, and you don't just create one just to have one. You really need to have recurring meetings where you and this executive team are working on the business together. You should be thinking big. You should be making progress towards important initiatives. You should be talking about the biggest challenges that the business is going through at that time. And if I could give one last piece of advice in all of it, and we see this a lot, and obviously I'm coming more from the direction of working towards that type of position than being a founder and owner like Chad is and CEO, is listen to your executive team. Don't necessarily, I'm not saying necessarily that you have to do everything that they suggest, or that by listen that you have to enact everything. That's not what I mean. I just mean listen. Because if you want good ideas and you want people to be autonomous and you want them to go encourage people below them to do it, they are going to do whatever you do as the founder, as the owner. And when you listen to them and show them you care and that you want their ideas, even if they're not exactly the right idea or don't line up with yours, you're building a team of autonomous people who will go to battle for you and will develop great people below them.
I love it. That's great advice. That's cool. I particularly love how you emphasize the team aspect of leadership team, and that's something we didn't really touch on much, but that's so true. There's something really magical that tends to happen when you start to build this group of people who are all committed to working toward a common goal and making your company better, and you're not just doing it by yourself.
Totally.
Yeah. And I think that's most executives are used to that. Most owners, that is, are used to that. Like, I'm the only person that's actually trying to make the company better. I'm not, everybody else is just doing their job.
Yeah, totally. It
You
totally
have to anoint them. You got to give them permission.
changes the way you view your role.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, let's fight.
Let's do it. Gosh darn it.
So, work from home versus hybrid workplace. I'm even, I'm really, this is a funny one for me, as you know, Matt, because Well Built is an entirely work from home job, right? Like everything. So we have people in Wyoming and Virginia and Maryland and Texas, and we're all spread out. And so a part of the draw at Well Built is, look, come here, do your thing, be available for clients. There's going to be some travel. It's not crazy. If you want to not travel a lot, sell a lot in your neighborhood.
Right,
it's kind of like
mistake,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a mistake.
I know,
you're getting a
I
chance
know,
to travel. Yeah. But yes,
I'm gonna get my flying miles in.
You are going to
Yeah.
get some frequent
I'm
flyer
excited.
miles.
Excited,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is. It's good. So, but so what I'm about to say is going to sound very counter to that, but I think I know we're in a very, very different business than our clients as contractors. And I am very much on the side of this idea that you really can't have a successful construction company with people who are not present. And I think there's a human aspect that I think the biggest driver for the reason I'm saying what I'm saying is that if you're a self-performed contractor, this is really the thing where I can't help it. If you're a self-performed contractor or you're a GC or CM and you have supers out on site all the time, if you're self-performing, you've got a crew of 200 employees out doing the work, man, doing the dang thing every day. I think it sends a very strange cultural message when whole swaths of your team don't have to come to the office.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear, I wrestle with this. I really, really do. But the teams that I see working most effectively together consistently, they're just in the damn office. they're in the office, and the office people are there, and the field people are there, and the office people actually go out and visit the field frequently. That's you know what I mean.
Right.
That's the way to do it.
Yep.
And um, I've just got too many examples of people trying to accommodate and that turning into just mush and then resentment and eventually everybody rolling it back to say otherwise. So that's where I stand on it, and I almost regretfully stand there because I again, me, I'm all about like freedom and flexibility and all that stuff. But as it relates to this topic, I want your butt in the office.
It's interesting, and thank you for sharing all of that. And when I think about even our job, yeah, we're work from home, but how many days a week are our consultants home all day?
Maybe one or two.
One or two.
Yeah. And it's all virtual meetings all day and that those 1 or 2 days. But otherwise,
We're at client offices, we're traveling because look, there is no doubt that human to human interaction is a benefit. There's no doubt to collaboration, to morale, to growth and development.
yep.
There are all of these reasons why having some kind of in-person interaction is important. Even just culturally being around each other, it's so important. So it is extremely complicated. And with that said, man, you got to be able to have flexibility these days. That's the way I feel about it is if you're not able to be flexible with the people in your organization or the people that you're recruiting to your organization, there is someone out there who will figure out how to make it flexible enough that those people feel more comfortable. The part that so I've reflected on this a lot. The part that I hate is similar to what you're saying. I don't feel right about the fact that you could have people that are hybrid in the office and then you have a superintendent who has to be on site 6 days a week, 5 days a week, 6 days a week. And I have two thoughts about that. One is that it may just be the reality of that type of position is that you're on the job site, and that might be something that I just have to kind of grapple with and get over, which is easy for me to say as never having been a superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
And with that said, if that is the expectation, what I absolutely think we need to do, and I genuinely believe that Well Built has a responsibility in this arena, is to make especially install trade contractors to
Self-perform.
self-perform trade contractors and self-perform GCs, is to make them solid enough organizations that they are better at planning and better at executing so that the field is not having to work 6 days a week every week. And at the very least, we have to start there so that we can start giving these people real weekends. And I know some people want to work 6 days a week, and I got all that. Fine. If somebody wants to work and we can get a crew together, I'm good with that. But I would venture to say there's way too many installers out there that have been working 6 or 7 day weeks for months at a time. And we've got to do a better job at putting them in positions where they don't have to do that. And I think that that would be only fair if we're going to say that people can work in some kind of hybrid environment.
Okay, a couple of thoughts though is that number one, just because I'm not in the office doesn't mean that I'm not working, right? And so like there are plenty of project managers working 7 days a week, but who are spending only a couple of days in the office or whatever else. And
Great point.
So I think there's that aspect of it, and also uh, doubling down on your comment about the field. There are lots of people out there who do want to be out there as many hours as they want. I know a lot of people in the field who are, man, they try to hit overtime every week if they can get overtime. That's what they want. I think I want people to leave work at work. I'm after the same thing you're after, Matt. I want balance. But why don't you leave your laptop here, man? Go home. Have a good night. I'll see you in the morning in the office.
Totally. So So you're saying no, even like hybrid you can't even get behind right now.
Look, Matt, I think you're going to win this argument because I think there's too many good points to be made that that you've been already stacking on, and I don't want to get bludgeoned.
Yeah,
I
right.
Because I think you're right. I really do. I think you're right. I'm just mad about it. Yes, I can see a world where hybrid works. I just wish it didn't have to. Like I got to be honest. Like I think things are better when I really do think that a significant component of people's particularly project managers, estimators, and such, that their sense of overwhelmedness is not coming from their commute to the office. It's coming from their working and home mixing relentlessly. And you also know that I'm a big fan of personal responsibility. So it's like, hey, man, figure out how to create some space. Just because you have your laptop at home doesn't mean you have to work all the time when you're at home.
Right.
I don't think that's the company's problem. But I also do think there was something more simple going on when people worked at work and were home at home, and that interrupting people at home was an exception. And I think when again, for the broadest population, I think we get better wellness and better collaboration when people are in the office. I think people are happier.
Wow. Man, that would be interesting to see the data. There's got to be some out there.
Well, here's some data. That I don't have the hard numbers in front of me, right? But here's some data. We know that suicide is way worse today than it was just 3 years ago, right? People are over the past 3-4 years, it's reached greater heights in the construction industry. I don't think it's working from home
like a 1-to-1. Yeah,
I do
right.
not believe that it's like just stop the working from home.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah,
Like it's more complicated than that. But I do believe that feeling isolated is a contributor to that. And I think that being in a workplace environment where you feel like you have a family and you feel there are a lot of people who rely on their work family. Right?
So true. No, so true.
And I want you to seriously, Matt, think about how hard and we're not even good enough at it, but think about how hard we work at creating our work family. Like, what are the things that we do all the time? Seriously, like, because here's your list, guys. If you're going hybrid or you got work from home people, here's an example. This isn't the definitive list because I've already called out. I would give us a C+ at building our work family. I'm probably being hard on us, but like, I feel like we have so much more we could do to build a positive work family in a work from home environment. What are some of the things that we do, Matt, very intentionally to try to create our work family?
We start our Monday staff meetings early so that we can all get on and talk about the weekend first, talk about core values and anything that we've seen in the previous week since we last talked. We have a book club that we started holding where we're rotating people making decisions about which books we're going to be reading and then talking about. We're actually going on one this Friday. We've started scheduling quarterly outings where we're getting off a little bit early on Friday to go see a baseball game all together. No, you're right. You have to be so intentional. And actually, to that point, which is interesting, there have been moments where I'm like, I feel lonely.
Yes.
And I think you've shared that really with me before. Yeah. Right.
You're mentally very well.
Right.
I mean that. Like, you take care of yourself a lot. You work on your mental wellness and your emotional health. You're very, very invested in that. So now imagine that you're somebody who's actually struggling, kind of having a hard time, and you have that feeling that you're kind of alone.
Yeah. No, it's great. It is.
No,
really,
that's not great.
Well, yeah,
no,
right. Yeah, sorry.
Great.
No, and I do that a lot, actually. I've been actually trying to work on that. But no, it makes sense. That's a great point.
Yeah, I know. And so I want that person to be surrounded with people who care about them.
Yeah.
Now, are there such things as toxic work environments?
There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
Right. So for people who are working in toxic work environments, working from home, gift. For people who are working in tight-knit family work environments, working from home, sad. And so the overall message, I really do think, and I didn't expect to say this coming out of it, but I think the overall message is invest in being a great place to work.
Yeah.
That's the overall message.
Yeah.
And if you're able to be an unbelievable place to work where people feel like they're a part of a work family and they are in all the time, regardless of where they work, you can probably get away with hybrid, as grumpy as that'll make me.
Yeah. Right. There's room for balance in both directions.
What about last question? What about work from home altogether? Do you see that working in a construction environment?
Yes, it can work. And I pause and think because I can think of roles where it works.
Do a
Estimator
handful of examples. Yeah.
estimator would be the first one that comes to mind that works.
Yeah. Accounting.
Accounting,
Yep.
it comes to mind that
Yep.
works. Again, I really do believe though that if you are a metals contractor in Maryland and your main estimator is in Indiana,
Right.
that you're missing opportunities to be able to build your estimating department.
Totally. And there's trade-offs, and I completely agree. I think, you
You do expand your talent pool significantly when you're allowing
which
this.
is we've been able to benefit from that. That's
Totally.
exactly.
Totally. And
it's
some of our
wonderful.
clients, they totally have.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Good conversation.
Yeah.
You win. But with I'm an honorable mention.
You moved me further. You moved me further than I would have expected. A lot further actually towards the work from the office all the time.
I played the mental health card.
Yeah, yeah.
I knew I could get.
It's hard to it's hard to argue against that.
It is. No,
Yeah.
I mean there really is. There's something in there that. But again, toxic work environment.
Yeah.
Run for the hills.
Yeah.
But maybe just quit regardless of where you're working.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. We could whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Note toxic work environments. Yeah. We should talk about how those get created in the construction industry and some of the things that we see most commonly. What are you reading, Matt?
Oh man. I am reading The Gathering Storm by Sir Winston Churchill.
Thank yourself.
By Sir Winston Churchill. So the first in his series of 6 books about World War II and his experience and the world's experience in World War II, but told from his perspective. And oh my gosh, is it fascinating.
I love it.
And I think I'm reading it on my Kindle. I think I'm 57% of the way through the first one of 6. So we'll see if I end up making it through all 6.
Sounds like a hell of a commitment.
Tell you what, man, he is an unbelievable writer.
Yeah.
An unbelievable leader.
Yeah.
And what a joy to hear the way that he thought about the world. And one of the things that I think has been the most enjoyable that I really didn't know, and I don't know how many people are listening know, is he was viewed as a social pariah or a political pariah really into the late 1930s, which World War II started in 1939 realistically for the British and German and French armies. And in 1937 and all the years leading up to that, Churchill was viewed very negatively because the world was sick of war from World War One. They wanted peace. They believed that peace was the way of the future, and that we were going to enter this age of peace that wasn't going to be broken, and that it was more worthwhile to allow Germany to take a little bit more land here, to go into a few areas that they weren't supposed to because of the Treaty of Versailles there, all of these things. And Churchill kept saying, no, like what Hitler's doing, what they're doing is not okay.
Yeah.
And they're not going to stop. And everybody's like, no, they're gonna stop. You're just being a doomsayer. And he spoke about this for years and years and was basically an outcast. And then finally in the late 1930s, all of this started to come to fruition, and everything that he said would happen happened. It was like quite incredible. And part of the reason why I've loved it so much is
he's such a quotable guy. He's loaded with quotes.
He is, and he's talking about how he couldn't believe. Do you have the quote?
I do. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
The only guide to a man is his conscience. The only shield to his memory is the rectitude and sincerity of his actions. It is very imprudent to walk through life without this shield, because we are so often mocked by the failure of our hopes and the upsetting of our calculations. But with this shield, however the fates may play, we march always in the ranks of honor. So basically, stick by your conscience. Do what you believe is right. And no matter how much people viewed him negatively for it, he really felt that preparing the world to be, ready for the impending crisis that would happen was the right thing to do. And all of the people that viewed him as an outcast were the same people that were rallying behind him in his speeches throughout the war. And what a good reminder that doing the right thing is always right, even if no one's doing it.
It's awesome.
It's
That's
been
awesome.
fantastic.
I love it. That's great. And I also think about how many people I know who have said that they're doing what they think is right, but the truth is they're doing what they think is personally expedient. And I'm like,
What a great point.
you know what I mean? I'm like, well,
Totally.
it's a really cool thing to tell yourself whenever you're trying to do whatever it is you want to do.
Right.
But if you really do just focus on what's right, you'll probably actually find yourself pissed off several times a week. I wish I could do this, but this is actually the right thing to do. That's how you know you're doing it right, folks.
That's where that whole conscience thing comes in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you know it. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been great. What are you reading, Chad?
Now that I'm switching over, I'm switching over. No, I'm reading. I'm reading a book that is our book club book that Matt recommended. One of the perks of being the book club book selector is you get to read other books because you've already read the book.
What a great point. What a great point. I've been skimming the book club book. I need to skim a little faster.
Yeah. You're like,
to get caught up.
Oh yeah, the book. Yeah. And the book is called Breath, and it's by James Nestor. And I'm about 40%, some along those lines into the book. Some of my takeaways to this point have been, really powerful in my own awareness as I seek to breathe through my nose more often and less often in through my mouth. Though I notice that when I talk, I find that very difficult to do. I think it's because once I start, I don't stop. And so then I'm like gasping for breath, and I find it very difficult to slow down and actually breathe through my nose.
Now I'm going to be hyper aware of that the next couple of days, which I'm excited about.
It's an interesting thing to be aware of, and there's all kinds of reasons that they get into in the book. I think it is mostly scientific. I think it's a little bit spiritual.
Yes.
And I think that's okay and doesn't make it less valid, but it does. I am trying to square some of the stuff that I'm learning in it with my own sort of like, does that feel important to me? Overall, though, I definitely buy into the science of the power of breath to heal, and the power of breath to help you to be kind of your best on a daily basis. I found myself taking 2-3 minutes to breathe before meetings instead of checking emails, or maybe while checking emails. You don't have to meditate every time you breathe.
Totally true.
But yeah, that's been it's been a good read. I'm looking forward to getting to the part where they just give you all the exercises.
Yes. Well, you have 60% of the book to go.
That sucks. Yeah, wait all the way to the end.
You get them throughout. You get them throughout.
Yeah. Okay, good.
But then they get summarized at the end into one clean.
Maybe I just download a PDF. Call it a day.
Yeah.
No, anyway, no, I'm good. It's been a good book, and thanks for the recommendation.
Of course. That's that changed the way I have breathed since then. It's also what got me into cold plunging, because spoiler alert, there is some Wim Hof in there.
Come on, man. I'm not doing any cold.
I'm not telling you got to. I'm just saying, there's some Wim Hof. Get ready for some Wim Hof in there.
I don't know what that means yet. And
Good.
I don't want to.
Then you should just skip to the end. You should download a PDF.
All right, fine. I'll read it. I'll find out what it all means. Maybe I'll come and geek out and be like, I'm doing a polar plunge.
And oh my, please don't tease me.
You're super excited.
Yeah,
don't.
Come on.
Are we gonna go get cold?
Yeah,
together?
exactly. Right. Maybe we'll do a podcast from the cold. Oh man. All right.
Here's how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
Matt, this is a lot of fun.
As always, Chad.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. We'll catch you on the next round of the Morning Huddle, Well Built series. And we run these every month. If you're not checking us out on our website, it's the morninghuddleconstructionshow.com. Our company's website is wellbuiltconsulting.com. And again, the name of the new book is Well Built, which if you just go into Amazon and you look up Well Built Book Chad Prinky or Well Built Chad Prinky, that'll do it. My last name is very difficult, but you'll figure it out.
I love it. Let's go get after it.
Thanks, man.
See you, everybody.
You're a hell of a host.